Okay, hello everyone to the Get More Dates. Sorry, it's not the Get More Dates. It's the Christian Dating Game podcast. This is episode 3 or 4 of the podcast, and I just want to thank you all for being here. Again, this is a reminder for everyone who maybe has caught this in the past or hasn't watched this previously. This is my chance to really give back to you guys. Like, I really want to use this as an opportunity to share with my insights, my knowledge in kind of a free setting to best serve my audiences. A big part of what I've done over the past few months is I've moved my business, my content much more to an act of service and an act of ministry. That's why I now have a focus on Christian clients as opposed to secular clients. Although, if you are secular, you will still get value. I was a secular dating coach for years, even though by the end of it, about 60-70% of my clients were already Christian. But this is just my way to give back to you guys. So I thank you for joining me, whether you're watching this live, whether you're watching the recording. Just another reminder that this is being streamed live on Instagram. It's being streamed live on Twitter. It's being streamed live on YouTube as well. And if you want to watch on whatever platform best suits you, go for it. Instagram is probably the worst kind of the three, to be quite honest, in terms of just the functionality. Like, I have to have it open separate so I can see the guys who are commenting there, whereas Twitter and YouTube is a much better system. I never thought I would say Twitter is better than Instagram, having now actually got on Instagram, but on this one front, they are better. Unfortunately, for those of you, most of my audience is on Twitter. I am gradually over time reducing the amount of time and effort that I'm putting on Twitter. Unfortunately, with the algorithm changes ever since the takeover, it's just not a very functional platform anymore, to be quite honest. There's all kinds of stuff going on in the background. There's all kinds of problems kind of with the algorithm in terms of actually getting exposure. Like, I get more people view my stuff on Instagram with like 300 followers than I get with like 33 or 31,000 that I have on Twitter nowadays, which is just not really much of a function. But yeah, thank you so much, Jay-Z Wayne, for the kind comment. Yeah, this is my way to try and give back to you guys. I really, it's been a change in my mindset over the past, probably been happening ever since my son passed away, to be quite honest, which is over a year ago now, that I need to move much more into serving people. As I've grown in my faith and kind of in my calling. And as I say, this is my chance to serve you guys. So I'm drinking some coffee this morning, which is from Sumatra. I know I always like to share a little bit. I enjoy drinking coffee. I enjoy drinking whiskey. I enjoy smoking cigars. And today I've got a Sumatran coffee, which is from the same region where my wife's family is from. And it's very good coffee. It's very flavorful. Indonesian coffee is great. But let's get into it. I have 3 questions given to me this week. One of them was actually from a client. 2 were from other people. I think there's going to be some really interesting topics of discussion. We're going to be talking about introversion, how to date as an introvert. It's a common question I get quite a lot, but someone's asked me a very specific aspect of dating as an introvert, which I really want to talk about. I'm also going to talk a bit about kind of common messaging mistakes that I see people make. This was one that was brought up by my client. He asked me a question this morning, actually, before I jumped on this stream. And I just thought it was actually a really good conversation topic to talk about. So I'm going to be using the question that he sent me privately, but I'm going to, I've already given him his response, but I'm going to address it publicly as well, because I think it's valuable. And I'm also going to talk a bit more just about dating apps in general. There was a question I got from someone which I thought was really, really interesting about dating apps and whether or not you should use them. And I'm just going to give you my thoughts on dating apps today, because, we live in a world where that is more and more normal. So we're going to talk about it, because, if you're single, you're probably, if you're not using them right now, you have used them with either more or less success. So that's what we're going to talk about. But before we get into all these questions, I would like to just have a quick time of prayer, just a quick prayer, just to bless this time and our time together, to thank you all for being here as well. So just give me a second. So, dear our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time together on this Friday morning for me to be able to share my wisdom with my insights with my audience. Pray that I can best serve them in the ways that I can. I pray that I will get questions and you'll give them the courage to ask me questions to help drive this live stream forward, Lord. I really want to help people in the best ways I can, Lord, and I pray that you will give me the wisdom and the guidance through the Holy Spirit to speak with inspiration to help those who have given their time to listen to this. So, Lord, I want to thank you for this life that you've granted us all in this time together, and we pray this in Jesus' holy name. Amen. Okay, thank you guys for bearing with me. And again, just one thing I haven't mentioned, please ask me questions. I'm here to serve you. I'm here to ask you. I love great comments like this from Jay-Z Wayne. Don't get me wrong. I really appreciate the kind comments, but also, let me help you. Let me help you in the way I can. I'm giving you my time for free to do this. And you can ask me questions, and there's basically no other way you can almost directly ask me these things and get my response. So take advantage of that. I want to help you however I can. Obviously the best way for me to help people is through working with them one-on-one, but not everyone's in position to do that. And I still want to serve you as best I can. So let's get into it. First question. This is a question I got via email, which is, where are the best? It's very simple. He actually gave a long spiel, which I'm just going to cut out and just kind of get to the question. But he basically asked, where are the best places to meet women as an introvert? And for those of you who didn't realize, I actually released a whole workshop on how to meet women as a Christian. And part of that is, adapting it to you personally. It's always any dating strategy that does not adopt or adapt to your personality, the way you act, the way you behave, the way you think about the world, is not going to be effective and is doing you a disservice. So this is contained within the very premise of all my coaching. And as I say, the workshop that is now closed, that it ran last Sunday. The best places to meet women as an introvert are not really that much different to the best places to meet women as an extrovert, because really the only difference is in how there will be certain locations you'll feel more comfortable in, for sure. But you're probably not going to go to a salsa class, for example, if you're an introvert. It's probably just not what's going to be suitable for you. But really what changes in the difference between an extrovert and an introvert style of dating is how they build attraction. Okay. Your initial attraction levels, it's the word I'm looking for. Your your natural attraction levels, what you feel more authentic and comfortable building attraction with, will be very different as an introvert, where you're actually going to thrive in settings and positions and opportunities where you're able to really sit in and have a long, deep, meaningful conversation, which can get below the surface. So if we think in terms of locations, we're not specifically thinking of places that you can go. More so, how can you create opportunities within those places that give you a chance to really shine in deep and meaningful conversations? So great places for this, or great ways that you can adapt the ways that you can really adapt your strategy to lean into your strengths is, for example, if you're going to a social event, you want to actually dial into one-on-one situations and try and target, first off, people, because you're probably not going to be as comfortable in a group setting. You're probably not going to be as dynamic in your communication style when you're in a group setting. So you need to be able to, therefore, almost isolate people in a one-on-one setting, which is not that hard. Now, you're also, as an introvert, probably going to be less naturally skillful at kind of what people like to call approaching. Now, you will probably have noticed, like, I very rarely talk about approaching in my content, full stop. And there's a very specific reason for that, which is it all an approach is starting a conversation with a woman. Okay. There's nothing more kind of to it than that. When you create this dynamic of approaching, what you're actually doing is you're building it up, and you're making the act of starting conversations seem bigger and more scary than they are. It goes from, oh, I'm just starting this conversation, see where it goes, to I'm approaching this woman, and therefore the risk, the skill, the fear are all higher because you've just built it up to be a bigger thing than it really is. And that is a key problem. Now, having said that, if you can build out the skills to at least start those conversations as an introvert in the right settings, you will be able to build connections in basically the same places as anyone else. It all comes down to creating the right dynamic to create the right conversations for you. That is the key. There's kind of nothing really more to it than that. That said, as I do take a sip of my coffee, there are places like bookstores. There are places like libraries, which are going to provide a different opportunity. There's also going to be an element of what kind of women are you going to connect with. If you're an introvert, you are going to connect with also, generally speaking, more introverted women, although there is something to be said for balance and for contrast, and the best can, the best can be brought out of you via other people and other styles of people. And those kind of women are going to be in very specific situations. Like, I remember talking with someone recently who was talking about when he met his wife, one of the things he was looking for is that he liked to read, he liked being outdoors. So he went and he started conversations with women in the park who were reading in the park, because that he kind of viewed that as, that's a place where I'm going to find the kind of woman that I want to be with. And these are the kind of things that you really need to be thinking about, more so than where to meet women as an introvert. Like, introversion doesn't affect your locations as much as it affects your overall strategy and how you have to approach meeting, like conversations and attraction and building relationships. That matters much more than locations. Like, you need a strategy for meeting women. It's a big thing of what I do for all my clients. It's, as I say, I ran a workshop on it last week where you literally would have built out a strategy plan for how to meet more women that's aligned with you. But meeting women is always secondary to what you do when you meet them. If you're going out and you're meeting women, but you can't build attraction when you meet them, it's, what's the point of meeting? You're not really gaining anything. In fact, it can be, if anything, can be more demoralizing, because you're actually getting opportunities, but you're not able to capitalize on those opportunities. And, getting demoralized is one of the biggest challenges of dating. It's a very zero-sum thing, and you only need to meet that one person, but it can be really demoralizing in the process until you do. Like, I'll give an example of one of my clients who we're still working together, but we're in a very laissez-faire situation where he's just going to be an occasional call just to check in, where he's just got into a relationship with a woman he really, really likes. But as we were going through the whole 12-week program, he actually only got 3 dates in that time, which is like definitely on the lower side of what my clients get and what I would hope for my clients. But by building out a strategy to actually meet women, actually to build his connection skills and his ability that when he did meet them, he was able to kind of have this magnetism about him that he didn't. And he talked about that. He was when he met his now girlfriend, he was at a wedding, at his friend's wedding. And he said that there at that wedding, because he'd already done the work at that point to improve his communication. And he's very introverted. He's a very successful guy. He's a businessman. He's very rational leaning guy. He's an introvert. He's not a natural extrovert. But when he was at this wedding, even before he met the girl he's now dating, he was saying like there was like the women were just almost drawn to him because of the energy he was putting out. And if you can do that as an introvert, that's going to make your life much easier as well. again, it all comes down to being able to project your energy into the world and penetrate the world as a man. This is something that is so key. Like men, if you think about sex, right? And you think about the way that the men and women, go about, make love to each other. Men penetrate women. We have this kind of energy and this push that means we have to break through. This is why men will always be the chase. When I see people say like, "Oh, men, you need to get chased," it's like, I mean, A, they're just dealing with some avoidant attachment issues, and B, it's like it's just an inversion of actual healthy sexuality when you think that you as a man need to be chased by a woman. Like what that really means is like you need to be validated by women, and you need to feel like women are chasing you to validate your existence because then I'm attractive, rather than inherently believing you're attractive and therefore you're going to pull in the right ones, which is what this client did. He had like 3 women basically come up to him, which had never happened to him before. Obviously it was a wedding, love is in the air. That's why weddings can be great places to meet women. It's a naturally very intimate, loving setting. And he met his girlfriend there. She was separate from those 3 women as well. So before that, there's a whole process of not getting a lot of dates, not getting a lot of success, but working on his skill base that meant when the right opportunity came, he attracted her in and she ended up dating him. And I talk a little bit about how to do this in my free guide, which I've linked either in the description box on Twitter. It will be in my profile on Instagram and under the tweet and Twitter, and it will be in the description box on YouTube. And this is something that really elaborates on how to actually connect with women as well, because it all, you're meeting women all the time, whether you're an introvert or not. You're always meeting women. Women are everywhere. Okay, there's no shortage of women in the world. It's whether or not you're actually connecting with the women you meet that's dictating your success more so. Yes, there are real differences in the way that you must approach dating if you're an introvert, but in terms of the actual locations, that's probably the least important place to change, the least important thing to change. And if you guys have any, I'm sure some of you watching this at home are introverts. If you have any questions and you want me to elaborate more on how to date as an introvert, please drop some questions. As I say, I want this to be as interactive as possible. I want to hear from you guys. I want to serve you. And, I'm going off into different kind of tangents here to try and provide as much value for you guys as possible. But maybe this isn't what you want to know. So let me know what you want to know. Ask me questions, please. I really, really appreciate it if you do, because as I say, it tells me how I can best help you, which is what I want to do. That said, if we don't get any questions there, we will move on into the second question that I was asked. Now, this is something that I'm going to switch the order, I think, actually, because I think it makes a bit more sense not to do it in the chronological order they were asked me in, but actually to start with the dating app. So a gentleman asked me on Instagram, do you recommend using dating apps? I feel like they're so shallow when you're looking for a potential wife. And this is actually a pretty common concern that I think a lot of guys have, where you will feel like, the endless kind of swiping, looking at women, kind of like, oh, click, click, swipe, swipe. That's it's shallow. It's like you're judging women solely on the looks. And the first thing I would always question about that, again, is like, is it shallow to look at and kind of, value women? Value is probably the wrong word, but let's just run with that for now, like just for the sake of ease. Like, is it actually wrong to value women based on their looks? And I would argue no, in the same way that I don't think it's wrong to value men based on their success, depending on what that success is. There are different metrics of success in the same way there are different metrics of attractiveness, right? Well, there's a general and there's there's an undeniable factor of some women just are beautiful, and that is inherent. But even within beauty, we all have types, right? We all have different things that we're attracted to that is somewhat subjective. And it's always how reality interplays with perception is a very interesting philosophical debate, which I won't get into now. But I really would question why you think that it's a negative or it's shallow to judge women on looks. Now, if you're solely judging women on looks and solely valuing them by the way they look, whether or not this is on a dating app or otherwise, that's not a good thing. But when you're looking at a dating profile, you're not just looking at the way she looks, you're looking at the photography choice, you're looking at her fashion sense, you're looking at the places that she is taking photos and what that communicates about her. You're looking at her bio and what her bio is saying about her and who she is as an individual, because these are all communication. Dating apps, a dating profile is just a type of communication. Yes, it's a choreographed form of communication, but guess what? Nearly all forms of communication is somewhat choreographed. Yes, you can read between the lines, you can get inferences, you can interpret things based on what people are saying, but ultimately, all communication is in some way a presentation of the self. So when you're looking at a dating app, if you're only looking at whether she's sexually attractive to you, then yeah, it probably is a little bit shallow. But if you're using that initial attractiveness as a threshold by which it's like, okay, there's enough interest here that I'm going to look at her bio, I'm going to look at the rest of her, the other kind of the other things that her photos are communicating, the locations, what type of person she's in. Does she look smiley? Is she with her friends? Does she seem like she has a family background? She's got a photo with her and her mum, for example, right? Like these are all things that are also being communicated on a dating app. So is it shallow to look at those things and to take a first, kind of have a first impression? Like, no. You're going to be making first impressions over those kind of things anyway, whether or not it's on a dating app or otherwise. So when that first impression comes in, it's whether you then justify yourself by that and kind of solely, don't explore her any further, right? There's 3 levels to dating apps that dating apps work on. There's the first level of the photos, which are that initial level of attraction, which for most men is whether she's pretty or not. I mean, that's fine. That's that initial thing that hooks you. The second level of attraction, when that already has kind of hooked you in, is you read their bio and figure out, oh, what's she trying to say about herself? What does that say about her character? What is the first impression I'm building of this woman via a dating app? And then you have the third level, which is the messaging, which is how you actually get to know whether that first impression is correct or not. You get the fact that you match with her means nothing, right? Like after that, it's about uncovering who she really is and whether you then want to go on a date with her and meet her. So dating apps are not shallow. Yes, it's a kind of almost systematized way of looking at things, but it's only shallow if you have the approach and you believe that it's shallow and you're actually using them in a shallow way. If you're not using dating apps in a shallow way, they're not shallow. Right? They're just another way to meet women. They're just a venue. It's just another way to meet women. It's kind of like saying, like, in today's world, I'm going to try and get a new job and I'm not going to bother to use LinkedIn. Like, why wouldn't you? Right? Like, sure, there's going to be jobs in your area. Sure, you can hand out your CV. You can go door to door, do that as well. In the same way that I would always recommend going up and connecting with women in public as well as online dating. But you would also use LinkedIn because that's going to give you a greater breadth and a greater surface area of potential opportunities, and dating apps are the same. And if you can get good at using them as well, they are almost an unparalleled resource. Like I've got a client at the moment who's 5'5". He's got all the disadvantages you could possibly ask for. He's of Asian descent. He's 5'5". It's like, these are all the things that people say means you're the lowest sexual kind of value. He's crushing it. He's getting like 2 or 3 dates a week, primarily using dating apps where you have to say your height, by the way. And he is doing well on those dates. He's having good dates. He's not yet found that person, but that's part of the process. As I talked about earlier with the other client, There is an element of you just have to keep pushing through and keep kind of, banging your head against the wall while continually improving yourself and figuring out through the dating process, what are the blind spots that I have in my character which are causing the problems as well, which is really, really key if you actually want to find a relationship. Because dating, and actually the act of going on dates and meeting women, if you're reflective and honest, and it can help to have some feedback from someone like myself, of course, to help you see those flaws, but you will see the problems with you because women will tell you by the way they respond to you. That's the ultimate teacher. And there are some things to take from that. There is some variance in that in terms of, is this a woman who I actually want to learn from based on her character and things like that, which is another issue. But dating apps are not shallow. They're only shallow if you use them shallowly. So do I recommend using dating apps? This guy asked. Yes, absolutely. As a Christian, I recommend using both Christian dating apps and secular dating apps. You can write your profile. You can use photos to show you're a Christian without expressly telling someone, which I think is really important. Show don't tell is just a great principle for life and dating for sure, but particularly on dating apps. When one of my clients in the past had a picture of him at a Christian band. I forget which band it was now, but it was like a Hillsong concert or something. He had a photo with a Hillsong background. He never mentioned he was Christian once in his profile. But anyone who's a Christian is going to notice that and realize, oh, okay, this guy's a Christian. But the way that he's done it is in a way of building connection and a way of kind of not kind of ramming it home, that it provides actually a bit more mystery and a bit more attraction. And that actually was a great conversation starter for him during a lot of his dating, online dating dalliances. He's now in a long-term relationship. He didn't meet her through a dating app in this circumstance. He met her at a young, a Christian small group. But dating apps, whether it's secular, there are Christian, this is the other thing. Guys often think where can I meet Christian women? Guys, Christian women are living the same lives as secular women, just with a Christian lens. They're still out drinking coffee. They're still going shopping. They're still going to dance classes. They're still living their life. Yes, you can guarantee they're going to be, or almost guarantee they're going to be Christian by going to a small group, but you need to have this idea. You need to get out of this idea of I can only approach things in a Christian lens of dating to get dating success. You need to have a framework of the morality and kind of the attitude towards dating, which is premised in a Christian worldview. But you don't have to do something that's unusual or it's some completely different style of dating. You just need to be more intentional. You just have the purpose and the goal that I do want this to lead to marriage and something that will lead to a God, biblical marriage in the future that glorifies God. But that doesn't mean you have to do something weird or out there or crazy to do that. It just means you need to be approaching women in a way that's respectful, that has that in mind. And as soon as you get serious, you need to stop dating other people. But I'm not, again, as a Christian, there's nothing saying you can't go on dates with two people at once in the early stages. Now, at some point, you do have to make that transition where you realize, okay, I think this person that I'm going on a date with, I'm quite serious about. And therefore, I need to treat this seriously and switch off from meeting other people and other things because I want to put my focus on this person. But if you're just dating one person at a time, you have no idea whether you're actually going to like that person or want to be in a relationship with that person. So you're actually just extending the time that you're going to be dating and the challenges of dating by just dating one person at a time, for example, which is something I hear all the time. It's yes, once you get to a point where you realize you like this person, then you need to close off all other interactions. But you can't know that until you've gone on a few dates with them. Right? You can't, it's very rare that you'll meet someone, you'll be like, okay, I'm going to put my full energy into this woman. It's very rare that happens. So you need to have a realistic outlook that's actually going to deliver success rather than believing that this is just like, I'm going to stick to this ideologically and stick to this process, but then it doesn't deliver you the success you want. Like, God will be much happier if you're in a good relationship and you're in a marriage and you kind of work towards that and done it in a way that actually delivered that, then you are working kind of almost against it by the way that you're acting, and then you never end up getting married, right? Like, God wants us to be married. He wants us to have healthy marriages. So this is something to really remember. Do you guys have any questions about dating apps? Like, anything you want to know, specific dating apps to use, like how you'd want me to set up a profile? Like, what would you like me to go into? Like, let me know. Like, ultimately, you guys are driving where this conversation goes, this monologue conversation, but where I'm going in this. So is there anything you'd like to know about dating apps? Like, let me know in the comments. I get all the comments, whether on Twitter, whether on Instagram, whether on YouTube, they come up here. And again, a reminder, this is being streamed on all 3 platforms. Again, if you are someone who is looking to get married and wants to find a good woman, I have got a free guide that will help you do that I've linked in the description box on YouTube. It's under the tweet in the Twitter thread on Twitter. And it's also in my Instagram bio on Instagram. Instagram's not as functional for this. You can't put it anywhere. Any questions on dating apps, guys? Anything? Because if not, we can move into the next section. The next question that I got, which is, as I said, this was from my client this morning. He has been chatting with a girl on Hinge, I believe, on a dating app anyway. And it was going really well. And then suddenly, she stopped responding. And it's kind of like, why do women ghost you? Well, the first thing to remember about all dating, but particularly when you're messaging on a dating app, is like, you want to visualize attraction kind of like a fire. And I'm sure I've talked about this before. I'm sure I've mentioned this before. It's because it's a really important concept, a great metaphor to use, is that attraction is a fire where in the early stages, when you're kindling that fire, it's very easy to put the flame out. You can just blow on that flame, breathe wrong, and it's going to go out. Whereas when I've been with my wife 8 years at this point, it's not like we don't occasionally have arguments and things like that, but it would take a big storm to put out the fire at this point. That's something that would actually take, it's a bonfire. It's a lot more rooted. It's going to be a lot more difficult to put out. Now, the problem that my client did this morning, or it would have been last night, in this evening, I should say, is that he messaged her too long of a response. And what that actually did, and what the real problem with that is this is why people say, you shouldn't message too much. This is actually an issue of overinvestment, where what women really care about, like, I'm not going to say more than anything, but one thing that women really do care about, again, this goes if you're secular, if you're Christian, anything, this is just what women care about, is social, like the view of them socially, right? This is why you also don't want, like, I was chatting with another client this week about, meeting women at the church. So he's gone on a date with a girl at his church this week. And he's also got another date with another girl from his church this week. And I kind of, warned him that, like, I wouldn't recommend doing that, right? I wouldn't recommend going on 2 dates with 2 women from church, even though, like, a minute ago, I just told you I have no problem with going on multiple dates with women at one time. But the difference is, whereas if you went on a date with a woman from church and then went on a date with a woman from a dating app, there's not that social judgment that if people find out, right? If people find out at church that they've been on 2 dates, the first woman he's been on a date with is going to have an element of judgment and social judgment that's going to decrease her attraction for him much more than if he decides he is serious about this woman, like, and says, hey, like, I want to start dating, I want to take this more seriously. Like, I want to be honest, because you should always be honest about what you're doing. Say, look, in the early stages of dating, I did go on 1 or 2 dates with other women, but I realized like you're the one I want to make this work with, and therefore I'm going to put my full focus in you. And if you, approach it in that way, like she's, by the way, going to be completely understanding of that. It makes sense, and she would appreciate your honesty. And nobody knows though. That's the key. Whereas if it's two people from your church, the whole church knows, and suddenly she's got that social judgment that's really going to actually kind of damage her potential reputation and therefore her attraction towards this guy, this client. So social judgment really, really matters so much, and that will kill that fledgling kind of kindling potentially in the early stages. And sending a long message like this client did will do the same, because what it says is I'm over invested in you. I care too much about where this is going to go, how it's going to go, what's going to happen. And like, therefore, like I'm fully focused on like, I'm almost too focused on you for where I should be, right? Because where you should be is she's a stranger that there's a little bit of attraction with, which is why we've matched. So why would you overinvest in this? Why would you make it seem like this is the most important thing in the world and that like you're going to treat her like you're dating or you're in a relationship already? That shows a lack of social awareness, right? And that's where these things tie in. That social awareness and that ability to be adaptable and understand social consequences, that there are things that people are going to respond to, the ways that you can embarrass a woman. These are all things that women hate. They hate it when you embarrass them in public. It's one of the reasons, us too, by the way, like one of the reasons why you never want to argue in public, because it's not only does it not show that you're a united front and you're a team, but it also invites social judgment, which is not, again, that's not what you want. You don't want social judgment, because that's going to create this weight and drive a wedge between you. So to kind of tie all this kind of in together, and again, if you've got any questions on any of this stuff, please let me know. You shouldn't send long messages early on in the dating process. It's fine when you're already in a relationship, we've been dating a while, that's fine. You want to share about your day or something's come up, you want to share with that and open up, move on with her, that's fine. But in the early stages, it basically shows that you're not socially aligned and you're treating this like more than it actually is, right? Like you're strangers who have just started talking. Never forget that. It's another problem guys have when they think that women should treat them a certain way early on. Like, why should she? Like, who are you to her? You're a guy that she's a little bit attracted enough that she's matched with on a dating app, or she gave you her number. Like, there's enough attraction there that she'd do that. But ultimately, you're not anything important or meaningful in her life. Yes, you're important and meaningful in your life, because we're all like that. We all have an ego. We're all egocentric to some degree. But for her, it's meaningless. You are meaningless. You're not someone who really matters. So you've got to be very, very cautious and very, very careful with reading too much into these situations and not understanding the reality of what's going on in this circumstance. Having that right framing is so important, because so much of attraction, so much of communication is what's between the lines. You've got to remember your beliefs, what you think about women, what you think about dating, what you think about God, all these things inform your thoughts. Your thoughts then inform your actions, and your actions inform the way you communicate with people. So the way we communicate is, when I'm talking about sub-communication, what's going on, what's actually happening in communication is all the things between the lines, choice of word, the way you use body language, the decisions you make in certain areas. What they're doing is they're communicating these other levels. They're communicating the way you act, your actions, which is communicating the way that you think about the world, which is communicating your beliefs. And if you have unhealthy, this is the problem red pill and pickup artists have, by the way, is when these kind of beliefs end up coming out, when women intuit them and read the sub communication, they realize like these beliefs are really unhealthy. And this is not a guy they want to spend their life with, because he has a really, bad way of looking at the world. So you have to be, when people go through I'm often asked, like, why is the dynastic dating program so successful? And guys, I'm running at a 93% success rate over the past sort of like 16 months or so. Like, it's unparalleled success what my program gets, especially in the dating sphere. And that's because we work on all these levels simultaneously, right? We work on the communication skills, the things that actually make you a better communicator, while simultaneously working on the belief patterns, which then work in tandem to make you a better communicator. And when you get the results from the better communication and the better way of thinking about it, you actually change the way that you view the world and the way you think about yourself. And suddenly you become a new person. You're still you, right? But you become a better version of yourself and you become the best version of yourself, which is why so often you'll see in my testimonials, like I had a testimonial from a recent client I think I shared on Twitter, or I definitely shared it in my newsletter, like, where he's like, I've got this magnetism that it's like I'm attracting the right people, I'm attracting the right business partners, I've attracted the right woman. He's in a relationship now, all through this. And that's because we've changed almost the whole way that he views, sees, and thinks about the world in relationship to people and women, right? In a healthy, aligned Christian way that suddenly has made him like this guy that it's just his success levels have gone crazy out the roof. It's like so often my clients end up getting promotions, end up getting new business ventures. I got a CEO I'm working with, and it's helped him in his communication with his staff. Like, and he's even recommended me that I should just turn this into a business course because it's so valuable for him. Like, it's why, you invest in the program with me, you end up getting your money's worth because you get promotions, you get new job opportunities. And I could write 10 testimonials right now where they talk about that. It's the way that you interact with women is so much more than the way you interact with women. It's the way you interact with the world at large. It's your relationship with yourself. It's your relationship with your sexuality. It's your relationship with the ether almost. And women hold a mirror up to yourself. So you need to be able to be getting the best success possible with women. It's going to give you a much, much different experience of life, if nothing else. And ultimately, if you want the best dating success and you want to meet the right women, you can't just focus on the communication, can't just focus on the mindset. You have to have both and everything in between. And the only way you get those changes is by getting results, which is why my program is so effective. We focus on getting results first. And as we get those results, we then work through all the other things that are going on below the surface. Most other people take the opposite approach. Well, other than the pickup style people, they only focus on the results and they have the bad and wrong mentality, which is why they never get into relationships and they end up as 40-year-old bitter men who basically project their misery out in the world. And then a lot of the kind of people who actually have a healthier mindset towards dating don't get the success because they don't focus on the results and they only focus on the mindset, which is backwards in my view. You can only change your mindset with the results. You can't just talk your issues away. It's just not how men work. Maybe women can do that. Men can't. And obviously, this is a dating program for men. Yeah, and a reminder, if you want to find out more about it and you want some of my, a slice of my program for free, the Dynastic Dating program for free, I've got a link to my free guide, which will show you how to meet women. You'll also get a guide on connecting with Christian women as well as a lot of other kind of value that comes with that. There's video content, video trainings, and ebooks that come with that for 100% free. And this is, one of my ways to give back to you guys. And that will be linked in the description box on YouTube. It's also in my under this tweet on Twitter. It's in the tweet thread, and it's in my bio on Instagram if you're watching there. Yeah, so they're the 3 questions that I got asked that I wanted to go through this week. Do you guys have anything you want to ask me? Don't be shy. Don't worry about judgment or anything else. Be courageous, be humble. There's no such thing as a stupid question. Every question is an opportunity to learn. And it's an opportunity for me to help you learn and help serve you. So if you've got any questions for me, please let me know. Otherwise, we'll close up in the next minute or two. This coffee is delicious. And some of you might notice I have a new bottle of whiskey in the back there. I've got a Gordon and MacPhail Linkwood 15-year aged from an independent bottler, Gordon and MacPhail. And I tried it last night for the first time, and it's pretty damn delicious. It's very smooth. It's it's a sherried whiskey, but it's not overly sherried. It's not too rich. It's got a real good balance between kind of the grain sweetness, the natural sweetness of the grain, and then kind of the fruity sweetness of the sherry that interplays well. Very little burn and very smooth, and it's not exceptional, but it's very good. Yeah, and if that's the case, it doesn't seem like we've got any questions, guys. So I just want to thank you again for joining me here and giving your time to share it with me this Thursday evening for you guys, this Friday morning for me. I'll be doing this every week. If you have any questions, anything you want to learn from me, you can ask me, you can DM me, you can send it me on, my email, wherever it might be. This is my way to give back to you guys. Like, that's why I'm doing this. I want to give back to you. Like, that's why I have free guides. That's why I give away free information. Like, and this is very different to my, my written work or my kind of curated content, in that I can really go off into things here in a way that, like, I don't really do in my content, because it, it's very divergent. It's very, I jump off and tangents, and then things go off, and people don't want to read through that. They want something very targeted in my content. Whereas here, this is an opportunity for me to elaborate on things for you. I can really open up and share some of the wisdom that I've accumulated over the, the 30 years of my life and the 4 or 5 years that I've been a dating coach. I've got a lot of wisdom contained up here, and sometimes I need it to be drawn out of me. There's so much I know that's just implicit for me that for you guys would be revolutionary, but you need to draw it out of me. So this is my way to try and, do that, give back to you guys, give you as much. And, my business has become my ministry. My first ministry is my family. It will always be my family. It's my wife, my son, my 2 sons, one of whom is still with us here on earth. But then my second ministry is my business, and to you guys in my audience. So if you can help me help you, I would appreciate that. And what have you got to lose? You just benefit. So, and it helps me too. I'm all into mutually beneficial arrangements. So until next time, this will be, we'll be on Twitter, and it'll also be on YouTube. So you can watch this back at your own leisure. The people watching the recording, thank you very much for also taking the time out of your day to do that. I do appreciate it. Time is a valuable resource, and I'm grateful that you're willing to spend it with me. So until next time, I'll see you again. God bless. Jack out.